Hey everyone, it's JC. We are going to chat today about some key things that I think can make all the difference when it comes to healing our food issues. We're going to talk about shame. And we're going to talk about it in a weird way. You might be surprised how I handle this. But we have carried, so many of us, tell me if you relate, a load of shame over our failures, all the years of not being able to tackle this, not being able to handle this cloak of shame that we wear. I remember having to weigh a lot of our patients in the clinic. That was part of my job, is to run them through their vitals and then get their weight. And I can't even count the times that I saw the eyes just suddenly glaze over with shame as we had to get on that scale. I felt it myself. We've been told that by practitioners, like, get your act together. This implication that we're lazy, that we're weak, that we can't overcome this issue. So much shame over that. Are you ready to maybe get past that? I think the Lord would have us look at it a different way. But the way I'm going to approach this as we address how to remove that cloak and not wear that heaviness of shame anymore, this is going to be a little different than you may expect. Let's talk about a story for a minute. About 50 years ago, give or take, it actually has been longer than that, but around the 50-year mark, something began to happen to our food system here in our world. Started in the West, but it has now spread throughout the world. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. We moved from the whole foods that our grandmothers and great-grandmothers made to a world of more processed and refined food. But I promise you, there's a connection between the shame and this. Hang with me. We're going to talk today about what's called ultra-processed food. Processing food is normal. Like I said, our grandmothers did that. They cooked and baked and made food and processed it. Ultra-processed food is a very different thing. As one definition from one researcher I found I liked. He defined ultra-processed food, or UPF, it now has an acronym, as something that comes wrapped in plastic or a box and has at least one ingredient that you would never find in your kitchen, right? But the funny thing about that is most ultra-processed food, you look at the ingredient label, it probably has 10, 15 things you would never find in your kitchen and don't even know how to find and don't even know what they are. That's what we're talking about. But there is a story, a backstory to this. You guys, I learned some things I have never, blew my mind. And it's going to, again, remove that shame. I truly believe it. So back in the 60s, here's where we're going to start. Back in the 60s, 70s, we had big tobacco, right? Tobacco companies had been very successful, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, in getting that cigarettes everywhere. But the science was starting to catch up. And they started to realize the writing on the wall that it was about to go down hard, the science that it was not healthy for you. So guess what they did? They diversified. R.J. Reynolds, Philip Morris, all the big tobacco companies diversified by buying up food companies. You guys, food companies. I did not know this. In fact, one researcher said from the 80s till about 2007, she said the tobacco companies were the largest owner of processed food companies. But here's what happened. They had an addiction business model. This is coming out in the documents because of all the lawsuits, and now we have access to their hidden documents. There was an addiction model, an actual business model of how to get people addicted on their cigarettes. And suddenly, now that they've owned food companies, they turned this model to the food companies and used this same four-step program to actually turn it to not just adults, but began to market to kids. Let me kids and families and moms. This is one article, and it's one of the ones I've linked below if you want to read it. It says tobacco giant R.J. Reynolds led the transition to sweetened beverages in 1963 when it purchased Hawaiian Punch. The beverage previously had been promoted to adults as a cocktail mixer, but R.J. Reynolds sought to beef up the drink's punchy mascot. It was a counterpart to the Joe Camel cartoon character, right? For those that are old enough to remember. But now it's going to be featured on toys, school book covers, comics, tumblers, clothing, TV commercials. The Hawaiian Punch guy, right? I saw someone with a shirt just yesterday with that on it. And it says Punchy became the best salesman the beverage ever had, according to tobacco industry documents. In the 60s and 70s, the company conducted taste tests with children and mothers to evaluate sweetness, flavors, and colors for Hawaiian Punch product line extensions. And the children's preferences were prioritized. And then in 1983, R.J. Reynolds, the tobacco company, introduced the nation's first juice box. Did you know that? I did not know that. Marketed as a handy little carton that comes with its very own straw. This innovation alone was largely responsible for 34% jump in sales back in the 80s. Meanwhile, tobacco competitor Philip Morris had acquired Kool-Aid. And you're right, they came up with their own mascot, didn't they? A good one. Flipped its marketing to families and children, creating the Kool-Aid Man mascot, and collaborated with branded toys like Barbie and Hot Wheels to get the Kool-Aid Man on all of those. We were marketed to, if you're as old as me, I'm 53. I grew up in this world. I mean, my grandma, great-grandma, if you're older than me, maybe you remember a different way of cooking where before like Fruit Loops and and Oreos and Kool-Aid and all of this. But this goes all the way back to my childhood. This was the world I grew up in, and we were marketed to. They even developed a Kool-Aid loyalty program, described in the documents as our version of the Marlboro Country Store, a cigarettes incentives program. So they took all the things that had worked in getting people addicted to cigarettes, and they began using all this marketing of their processed food companies. But guys, it goes deeper than that. There's some main characteristic of processed food that started in this shift, but it has continued hardcore till today. One of the main characteristics that I bet you've heard this, it's called hyperpalatability. And it means that they have used chemists and food scientists to engineer the combination of sugar and fat and salt, whatever combo, be it chips, be it cookies. They're engineering it to get to the perfect bliss point that will make it the most addictive. And this is all for profitability. They don't care about your nutrition at all. They know how to manipulate the body's addictiveness with this hyperpalatability. And food has been, this is people's jobs to make it that bliss point so hot and perfect that we will just keep eating and keep eating and keep eating. So, but it's hyperpalatable. It's been engineered to be such. But another thing that I read that was a real big surprise for me is you look at a characteristic of ultra-processed food. It's very soft for the most part. It's not like a carrot or something that has a lot of fiber in it and you have to actually chew it and chew it. You can't gulp it down, right? A carrot. But these kinds of foods, you absolutely can. Like a piece of white bread, it's very soft, very easy to eat. But one description, oh, this blew my mind. Listen to this. The result of using industrially modified plant and animal ingredients that have essentially been pulverized or pre-chewed in the factories. They are pulverized. But the word pre-chewed really kind of grossed me out, but it also was so telling. It's pulverized of all its nutrients and all its fiber, and then it's reconstituted before it's made into these products. During pulverization, the fibrous cell walls of the original food are destroyed, resulting in pre-digested starches and sugars. What we're eating it's like it's already been digested. So guess what happens? When you eat a banana, let's say you eat a banana, you eat it and it has fiber and water and acid in it. Even if you tried to binge on bananas, let's say you had a bunch of 8. Who's ever been able to eat 8 bananas? No, you have that and you start eating it. And because it has all that fiber in it, your body has a built-in system where it says, it triggers your satiety hormones. And you say, oh no, I'm full, I'm done. Because this refined food has been pre-chewed or pulverized and stripped of all that fiber, it bypasses the satiety hormones completely. So your body does not ever register fullness. It breaks the system, you guys. Listen to this from researcher Kevin Hall. It's not just that ultra-processed food is delicious and so creates an overdrive where we enjoy eating more than we hate being full. That's very true, right? That bliss point, we know we're going to be so full and uncomfortable. We enjoy eating it more because it's so addictive to the taste. He says, yes, that's part of it. It's also that ultra-processed food seems to reset our satiety mechanism or bypass it, or perhaps just break it completely, is what he said. I didn't know this. I did not know this. This rocked my world. We think it's addictive just because of the taste. And in part it is because of the hyperpalatability we talked about, right? But you can eat a whole thing of cookies and keep going, or a whole thing of ice cream, because it's so refined that it does not trigger your body's fullness. It does not. It bypasses it. So it breaks the whole system. This is not about willpower. This is about biochemistry. You eat it, it doesn't have the things in it to make the body respond the way it needs to say, I'm full, you're enough, you've eaten enough, you're done. It breaks it. And yet we've been carrying the shame of this like it's our moral failure, our, oh, I'm just so weak. And we're told by practitioners that we're weak, or that we're lazy, or that, or we're judged by others, when it actually is the biochemistry of the system that has made it like this. And they knew it and exploited it and sold it to us as kids. And even worse, I jumped on the bandwagon and gave it to my kids. That was great. M&M commercials, those are so cute. Yeah, let's go get some M&M. I've bought into the system hook, line, and sinker. I bought into it. I grew up in it. The Fruit Loops were so normalized that it was food to me. It's not food. It has been pre-chewed and pulverized and reconstituted and dyed and preserved and additives, all these things. They disrupt the gut, cause inflammation in the gut, but bypass your satiety completely. No wonder we have an obesity epidemic. The body is broken with this system. We were not told that these foods impact the body this way. And so here we're like, why am I so weak with this? Because we don't understand the biochemistry. Where's the other thing I wanted to read to you? The other thing is, it's not just that it bypasses your satiety hormones. It does not trigger them. The other thing is that these kinds of food have been so stripped of the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber, all the things that our body needs to run. So as we're eating, the body's waiting for the nutrients. It's like, yeah, I need fiber, I need vitamins, I need minerals, but that's not in this, so keep eating. The body won't trigger that it's full because it has not yet received what it needs. It's missing so much that the body's like, well, I still need more. I know you ate the whole thing of cookies, but I did not get the vitamins and minerals I need, so I'm going to still ask for more. It's not the gas the body was meant to run on, so it's still going to ask for, okay, I'm going to ask you again, will you please eat some fiber and we keep putting soda and all the refined foods in there and not giving the body what it needs. So what happens is we end up in a state where we're overfed, but undernourished. Overfed, but undernourished. The body doesn't have the nutrients. So it's like, well, you've got to keep eating because I still don't have what I need to do all the processes, to grow all the hormones, to do all the things. This is dangerous. What has happened? And it's been pushed on us like this tidal wave. And we kind of bought into it because we were not educated about what is happening through this ultra-processed food. It was so normalized through commercials and our toys and our culture. We adopted into our holidays. Walk into Walmart on Valentine's, it's the food. At Christmas, at birthday parties, it's about the food. We've normalized it because it's been around. It was pushed on us so much that it became part of our culture. And then the companies didn't have to market it to us because we were selling it to each other. We're like, yeah, let's go get. It was so integrated. But it happened in our childhood before we even had a conscious choice. And this is crazy. One researcher, this is what she said: if you are genetically or epigenetically vulnerable to hyperpalatability, to that addictive taste, even a couple weeks of exposure could rewire your brain's reward system to want more. That rewiring could create food addiction, she says. And I thought, even a couple weeks. Like, I grew up on this. I grew up on Capri Suns and Oreos in my lunch. And it's the way I fed my children. White bread, peanut butter and jelly on white bread. All of these things that were new to our generation in the 70s and 80s that our grandmothers would never have eaten. It was convenient. It was new. It was palatable. It was so good. But we didn't understand that, she says, even a few weeks could rewire the reward system. And that happened to be my whole childhood. Of course, it rewired my reward system. And then I'm going to wear a cloak of shame, of guilt, when I don't even realize that my body has been hijacked. That's the word I heard through many different articles and books. The reward system's been hijacked by these companies and their ability or their desire to earn more profit. So they would just hone these foods. So they just hijack your body's whole system. And then we feel guilty because we don't know why we can't stop, but we don't understand any of this biochemistry. Does that help lift that cloak of shame a little bit and think, okay, wait a second. We've been conned. We've been deceived. We've been worked hard and we bought into it. We were introduced to it. Our parents didn't know either. Let's not blame anybody. This isn't about blame, but we've worn so much shame around our inability. We didn't understand that the body's processes were getting us into this, stuck into this, way before we even knew what was going on. Let's release that shame. The Lord knows the tidal wave of messages we've received in this generation. It was more for none of us can be held responsible for. We got it from our teachers. We got it from churches. Their food was everywhere you go. It's been absolutely just shoved at us. Let's not make this about shame. What if, once and for all, we realize we're not broken, the biochemistry is broken, and it's about what's been done to the food, which then responds totally different in our bodies and we didn't even know it. What if we just let go of that shame? What if we just let the Lord step into that space and say, I know this has been complicated. I know this was part of your life before you even had a say, and part of your body's system, reward system, before you were even old enough to realize, most of us, right? Let's not get caught up in the shame of it. Let's just begin to let that go. Let him help us release that load off our shoulders. It was addictive. And it wasn't your fault. Your body was addictive with it because of the way these foods are processed. Let the shame go and let him begin to walk us to a place of healing where we are not manipulated by the system anymore, but we're back to a place where we're feeding and fueling our bodies with food the way he intended. Yes, it takes some healing mentally, physically, emotionally, because these foods are so tied up into all those things. And that's what my channel's about. All my videos are around that holistic type of healing where we're mentally beginning to be healed and emotionally and physically. So keep watching videos if you want to know how to go through that process. That's what I've been talking about. But as for today, let's let go of the shame. It was not your fault. Your body was never meant to respond to this food in a healthy way. And there's no such thing as willpower that can override this kind of addictive system. Let's just leave the shame behind and move forward and let the Lord begin to walk us down a path where we will be free from that manipulation, free from the addictiveness of these food companies and the way that they're trying to get us into their system, but really become healthy in a way that honors our God-given body and the way it is meant to function, and truly become the temple that it's meant to be. I hope that was helpful. Questions in the comments. That was a lot to process. Questions if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.